That's a clown question, bro.
Hi, what's up on you?
So I'm gonna kick some dirt.
He gets on base.
Just a bit outside.
I'm not the type of player that's going to be Johnny Hustle.
If you don't want me to watch the ball, you can go get it out of the ocean.
And welcome back to the show to be named later, episode 44. Hope you enjoyed the Sandy Koufax, part one of episode 41, talking about Sandy Koufax. I am your host, Chris Rianta. Over there on the other side of the screen is Daniel Curran. We are going to be talking about the 2005 Astros in this part of the episode. Daniel, what was the status of the Astros heading into the 2005 season?
Well, in 2004, they went 92-70, and they were one game shy of the World Series. They lost a Game 7 to those St. Louis Cardinals in that same division. And things didn't look too good for them based on their offseason. They lost Carlos Beltran, who was a midseason acquisition the previous year, in free agency to the Mets. And he produced a 4.5 B-WAR in 90 games for them in the previous season, so that's obviously not a guy you want to lose. They also lost Jeff Kent, who had 3.4 baseball reference WAR for them in 04. So you lose two of your big bats. However, you do re-sign Roger Clemens, who, granted, he was 42 years old at the time, but he had just won a Cy Young in the previous season. So that's a guy you want to keep, and they did. And going into the season, they felt good. You know, they had a lot of expectations. They wanted to take that extra step and get to the World Series, and they would have to overcome a terrible start. Houston, we have a problem. On May 27th, the Astros were 16-31. That was the third worst record in all of baseball, and they were last in the National League Central, 15 games behind the first place Cardinals. One of the worst parts about this, as if 16-31 isn't already bad enough, they were 3-22 on the road. 3-22, that is a 120 winning percentage. That is atrocious. Also, on May 8th, what?
It would be funny to see how many pitchers hit better than 120 during this period.
Yeah, honestly.
Yeah.
On May 8th, they lost the game to the Braves 16-0, and it was tied for the most lopsided shutout loss in Astros history. They had been around for 44 years at this time.
Yeesh.
And when I looked deep into the individual stats, it didn't take me long to figure out what the problem was. It was the offense. The offense had a league worst 78 weighted runs created plus at this point. They were also last in hits, runs scored, and RBIs. However, there was a couple good things that happened. Just individual games. On May 15th, third baseman Morgan Ensberg became one of 6 players to have a 3 home run game that season. And Roger Clemens, the guy they re-signed, he was definitely not part of the problem. He was 3-2. Feel bad for him for being 3-2 with a 1.19 ERA at that time. Also a 2.26 FIP, a 2.95 xFIP, and a 2.5 wins above replacement. All of those led the majors. The Astros were a solid 3-7 in his starts.
Jesus.
Yeah. Not getting any, could not buy him any run support. Roy Oswalt during that time was 5-6, losing record with a 3.23 ERA. Not great. And on June 1st, the Houston Chronicle, their local newspaper, pronounced them dead, with the front page of the newspaper showing a tombstone with the Astros logo on it saying, "R.I.P. Astros season, April 5th, 2005 through June 1st, 2005. The front page listed the following, quote, "The cold, hard truth. Yes, there are 111 games left on the schedule, but the Astros might as well start thinking about next year. It's off."
So the Astros officially pronounced dead, but things start to turn around from June 8th on. They went 23-8. These Houston Astros went 23-8 from June 8th through the end of the first half of the season, which was the best record in baseball in that time span. So they went from 16-31 all the way to 44-43 at the end of the first half. They were second in the National League Central 11 and a half games behind the Cardinals. The Cardinals were dominant down the stretch in the 2005 season, but the Astros were right behind them. They were 5 games behind the wild card leader in 2005, and Morgan Ensberg, Roger Clemens, Roy Oswalt, and Brad Lidge all represented the Astros in the All-Star game. Pretty representative of the team that 3 of the 4 players were pitchers for the Astros. And that leads into Brad Lidge striking out the side in the 7th inning of the All-Star game.
Here's a 1-2. And another nasty pitch that gets away for a moment from Loduca. 1 out. Let's check in with Kevin Kennedy.
It hasn't been. I hope everything that happens is on the field.
1-2 pitch. There's kind of a foul tip.
Yeah.
For the strikeout. Perfect 7th, 8th inning All-Star game. 7-2 AL.
So there you have it. Brad Lidge making his mark in the All-Star game. There we go. By the way, second straight show featuring Brad Lidge. Make sure to check out our 2008 Phillies episode. Good episode over there. And the Astros pitching was a full win better. Back to the stats through the end of the first half from June 8th on. The Astros pitching was a full win better than every other team in the majors. And they also led the majors, the entire Major League Baseball, in FIP with 3.43, home runs per 9 with 0.7, and they were tied for first in strikeout percentage with 20.1. The bullpen also had a 2.1 F-WAR, led the majors, and they had 10.14 strikeouts per 9, which also led the majors. And the entire staff, clearly up and down the pitching staff, was unbelievable. Roy Oswalt went 6-0 with a .96 ERA. Also had 1.5 F-WAR over 46 2/3 innings pitched. Andy Pettit went 3-1 with a 2.43 ERA. Also had 1.4 F-WAR over 40 2/3 innings pitched. Roger Clemens, the third part of that 3-headed monster, went 3-0 with a 1.10 ERA and 1.1 F-WAR over 41 innings pitched. Brad Lidge was also spectacular. You know, you have your starters, and then you have a dominant reliever coming out of the pen in Brad Lidge. Brad Lidge had 15 strikeouts per 9, which led the majors. Had 20 strikeouts in 12 innings pitched. That led the majors from June 8th through the end of the first half. Had a 1.5 ERA and a .44 FIP. And that led the league, obviously. And I mean, the things that must go into a .44 FIP, I cannot imagine.
Yeah, that doesn't happen.
You just do not see that. You just really do not see it.
Even if it was over, a month-long span.
Yeah, over one game, that's impressive enough.
Yeah.
And Chad Qualls, another man in the bullpen, he had 10.29 strikeouts per 9 over 14 innings pitched. Also had a 1.29 ERA and a 1.38 FIP, which was third in the majors, one behind Brad Lidge. And Dan Wheeler, another man in the bullpen, had 9.24 strikeouts per 9 over 12 2/3 innings pitched. During this span, had a 2.13 ERA and a 1.91 FIP from June 8th through the end of the first half. Also, with the Astros in this stretch, 13 out of 147 qualifying relievers had a sub-2 FIP. That's 8% of the league. And 3 out of those 13 guys were, in fact, Houston Astros. So they were making a mark in their bullpen, unlike beforehand. And the offense as a whole slashed 275, 342, 444, 786. They were third in the NL in OPS, first in stolen bases. Also, Morgan Ensberg had a 1.9 F-WAR during this stretch, which was tied for 4th in the majors. He also slashed 293, 396, 681 for a 1077 OPS. He also had a 439 WOBA. Interesting difference between his on-base percentage and his WOBA, meaning he's slugging the ball, and he had a 171 weighted runs created plus. Lance Berkman, one of the stars of this offense for a long time, he slashed 336, 444, 522 for a 966 OPS with a 157 weighted runs created plus. And 39-year-old Craig Biggio, he slashed 322, 395, 530, 925, 925 OPS there. Also had 144 weighted runs created plus. I mean, this whole offense was just getting it done through this stretch. And this leads to Craig Biggio. Craig Biggio sets the modern day, the all-time hit by pitch record on June 29th. An unreal moment here in baseball history. We can't get the single season walks. We can't get the all-time walks record, but we got the hit by pitch record here.
I'll take
Craig
it.
Biggio. Take a look.
Throw the baseball as he did last night.
And Biggio now owns the record all to himself. A grimace and maybe a grin for a moment.
Well,
268 times he's been hit in his career. That is a new major league record. He shared it for 24 hours with Don Baylor. And some Astro fans know of the record.
Did that mess up? Did something come up in the middle there?
It froze in the middle for me.
Okay, I'll start that over.
All right.
to throw the baseball as he did last night.
And Biggio now owns the record all to himself. A grimace and maybe a grin for a moment. 268 times he's been hit in his career. That is a new major league record. He shared it for 24 hours with Don Baylor. And some Astro fans know of the record. And they stand and applaud.
And the ball shot all the way over into the Rockies dugout. He asked for it to be thrown to their dugout, and it was.
But you know what? Think about the left side of his body. It's
Well,
been black and blue for 2 decades.
So unbelievable, you know. It's one of those things where, you know, people ask you, where were you June 29th, 2005? Where were you when Craig Biggio broke the all-time hit by pitch record?
I mean, we had been, you know, people have been tracking it for years and years, and to have it finally culminate on that day in Colorado, nonetheless, you know, a hitter-friendly park, of course.
Yeah, you know, a podcast we like to listen to, they always ask their guests, you know, go back. You have the choice to go back one moment in baseball history. I think mine is June 29th, 2005. Craig Biggio breaks the all-time hit by pitch record. I mean, I think that's far ahead as number one for me.
I mean, I feel like you could do Barry Bonds breaking the walk record, so you can get a video of it and have the only recorded tape of Barry Bonds breaking the walks record, because that video does not exist.
Yeah, because I think
it was on July 4th too. We just passed the anniversary of it.
Yeah, it was in 2004 or something. It was
during that ridiculous offensive stretch.
Yeah, it was, and apparently they didn't have video before 2004, so they couldn't show the walks record being broken, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, this is 2005, so we just luckily got it in.
Yeah, that it was it's real grainy footage, but yeah. And also, back to this unbelievable stretch by the Houston Astros. They went 23-8 during this stretch, and it was partially because of, you know, performances like Ensberg, Berkman, Biggio, and also 23-year-old rookie Willie Taveras. He had a 328 average during this stretch, and turns out, you know, they were just kind of getting started.
Yeah, so I mean, if you thought 23-8 was good, from July 18th to July 30th, they went 13-1, and their pitching was ridiculous. A 1.52 ERA led the majors. The next best was 2.82. They were about a run and a quarter above everyone else. And their pitching had an FWAR of 2.6. The next best in the majors was 1.6. They were one up on everyone in a 14-game stretch. Starting pitching had a 3 FWAR. The next best in the majors was 1.9. Starting pitching also led all of baseball with a 1.61 ERA. The next best was 2.58. The Astros during the stretch never gave up more than 4 runs in any game, and Roy Oswalt was one of the big pitchers during this. 2-0 with an 0.53 ERA in 17 innings pitched. If you think that's good, how about Andy Pettitte, 3-0 with an 0.41 ERA in 22 innings pitched. Pettitte and Oswalt were the top 2 NL starters in ERA at this time. Also, Wandy Rodriguez, the number 4 or 5 starter in this rotation, 2-0 with a 2.37 ERA in 19 innings pitched. And of course, Roger Clemens, 2-0 with a 1.38 ERA in 13 innings pitched. The offense as a whole slashed 288, 342, 478, 820. And the big performer at this time was Lance Berkman. He slashed 377, 468, 811 for a 1279 OPS, 525 WOBA, 227 weighted runs created, plus also a 6.5 strikeout rate. Pretty good.
Wow.
So now, in the last 2 months, it is time for the Astros to shock the world. They went 13-14 in August, not ideal, but they entered September with a 70-62 record in the wild card hunt with the Phillies, Marlins, Mets, and Nationals, basically the entire NL East. And on September 14th, the standings were as follows. The Marlins were leading the wild card at 78-67. The Phillies were 77-68. The Astros were 76-68. The Nationals were 74-71. And the Mets did that thing where they're the New York Mets, you know, Chris, that thing that they do. They did that, and they choked themselves out of the picture, unfortunately.
Dang.
So from that point on, these teams finished their seasons by going Marlins 5-12, Nationals 7-10. So, it's all looking good. These teams are flailing, but then there's the 11-6 Phillies. Phillies were ahead of the Astros, so the Astros would have needed to go 13-5 over their last 18 games to win the wild card and make it to the playoffs. Well, let's fast forward to October 2nd, game 162.
Pitch on the way. Bouncer. A line drive to Brocklet. Leaped up, grabbed it. This game is over. Wild card. Here we come.
How else would you figure to end this season but with 2 runners in scoring position and the opposition hitting a line drive that had to be caught? That's how it ends. Wow.
They're starting to celebrate at Minute Maid Park. Let's enjoy the atmosphere.
Your totals are on the board. The Astros 6 runs, 11 hits, 2 errors.
So Phil Garner and the Astros are now heading to the playoffs. They have come straight from the grave from the Houston Chronicle, and they are going to the playoffs.
Yeah, an unbelievable regular season. I mean, we don't have a lot of footage, but that doesn't downplay the epicness, the epicness of this regular season. It was unbelievable. I mean, they were 21-35 at a point, and they finished 68-38 to make the playoffs. It's bad. Crazy. And how funny is it that there was a team just like that last year? But the big performers of the 2005 Astros in the regular season. First, of course, you got to start off with Roger Clemens. he went 13-8 with, and don't let that 13-8 record fool you. He had a 1.87 ERA, which led the majors. And his ERA was never at any point above 2. And it is the only age 42 plus season ever with a sub 2 ERA. And it is one of 2 6+ F4 seasons by a player age 42 or above. One of 2 6+ F4 seasons ever by someone age 42 or higher. Also, Roger Clemens led the majors in ERA plus with 226. He led the league in FIP with 2.97, hits per 9 with 6.4, and he finished 3rd in the Cy Young voting and 22nd in the MVP voting. Also, Roger Clemens was not the only stud in that rotation. Roy Oswalt went 20-12 with a 2.94 ERA. He became the first Astros pitcher to have 2 straight 20-win sub 3.5 ERA seasons. He also had a 144 ERA plus, and he was 4th in the Cy Young voting and 23rd in the MVP voting, right behind Roger Clemens in both. And Andy Pettitte finished the season 17-9 with a 2.39 ERA, which was 2nd in the majors, and he ended up being 5th in the Cy Young voting, right behind Roger Clemens, or right behind Roy Oswalt, who was right behind Roger Clemens, and 24th in the MVP voting, right behind Roy Oswalt, who was right behind Roger Clemens.
You're all in a row.
All right in a row. How fun is that? And Brad Lidge was spectacular with going 42 for 46 in save opportunities. He also had a 2.29 ERA, a 185 ERA plus, and he finished 30th in the MVP voting. The Astros pitching staff led the majors in xFIP with 3.84 and F4 with 22.6. And the Astros starting pitching led the majors in ERA with 3.46. Morgan Ensberg on the offensive side, he slashed 283, 388, 557 for a 945 OPS. And he set single season records for Astros third baseman in home runs with 36. The previous record was 25. RBI with 101. Walk percentage with 13.6. Isolated power with 274. On-base percentage with 388. Slugging percentage with 557. The previous best was 495. OPS 945. The previous best by an Astros third baseman in a single season was 847. He was almost 100 points better than the next best guy. Morgan Ensberg was also set the single season record for Astros third baseman in WOBA with 399. Weighted runs created plus with 144. F4 was 6.1, and that resulted in him being 4th in the MVP voting. I think all that deserves one. And Lance Berkman, Morgan Ensberg was not the only great offensive performer. Lance Berkman slashed 293, 411, 524 for a 935 OPS. He had a 399 WOBA, and he had a 144 weighted runs created plus, just like Morgan Ensberg there. And Berkman also finished 14th in the MVP voting, top 15 there. Even as a guy who's not known for his defense, his offense put him over the top. And Craig Biggio at age 39, he went 264, 325, 468 for a 792 OPS, and his slugging ranked 6th among second basemen, that being as a 39-year-old man. And Willie Taveras, the rookie, as you may remember, he had a 291 average, and he finished 2nd in the Rookie of the Year vote. And that leads into the postseason.
So the Astros square off in the National League Division Series against the Atlanta Braves. And the Braves actually won one more game in the regular season, and the Astros were also the wild card. So, of course, the Braves are going to have home field in this series. So, game one, the Astros were winning 5-3 in the top of the eighth. Jeff Bagwell, he was on this team. He hit an RBI single with the bases loaded. 2 batters later, Morgan Ensberg drew an RBI walk, then a run scored on a wild pitch, and then Orlando Palmeiro hit a 2-run single. That is a 5-run eighth inning, and that would be the dagger for that game as the Astros win it 10-5. So now in game two, Roger Clemens gets roughed up, and he gives up 5 over 3 innings, and the offense could not figure out John Smoltz. The Braves would even up the series in game two. So now going into game three, Oswalt pitched 7 1/3 innings pitched, allowing 3 runs as the offense completely surged. Craig Biggio became the oldest player to ever have 3 doubles in a postseason game.
Oh.
Morgan Ensberg also hit 2 doubles, and Mike Lamb hit a home run and drew 2 intentional walks. The Astros would win that game 7-3, 1 game away from the National League Championship Series. So now, in game 4, 3rd inning, the Braves have bases loaded and 2 out, and Adam LaRoche comes up looking to give the Braves an early lead.
There's going to be some noisy Minute Maid car to swing a high fly ball right center field, driven deep. Tavares racing back, turning around, it sails, it is gone. That's a grand slam for Adam LaRoche. And just like that, 4-0 Atlanta. LaRoche hits the daylights out of it to give the Braves a 4-zip lead. And a very, very quiet Minute Maid, as it turns out, as the Braves.
So Brandon Backey giving up the grand slam. The Braves are now up 4-0 and looking to force a game 5 in Atlanta. So the Braves score again 2 innings later on an Andrew Jones sac fly. It is now 5-0. The Astros did, however, answer of the sac fly with a sac fly of their own the next half inning from Orlando Palmeiro, and the score would remain 5-1 for a while. But then in the top of the 8th inning, Brian McCann from the Braves hit a home run to make it 6-1. The Braves' winning percentage was now at 98%. In the bottom of the 8th, Brad Ausmus walked, Eric Bruntlett singled, and Biggio grounded out. But then Luke Scott walked to load the bases with 1 out for Lance Berkman.
Swing and a drive, left field. High, Langerhans turn.
Yeah.
It changes. Swing and a drive, left field. High, Langerhans turns, it's gone! Grand slam, Berkman!
So Lance Berkman brings the Astros back into the game. It is a 6-5 Braves lead. So now skip to the bottom of the 9th. It's still 6-5. The Astros are down to their last 3 outs. Unfortunately, Kyle Farnsworth comes in for the save, and he gets the first 2 guys, but then Brad Ausmus comes up with the Astros down to their last out.
Fly ball way back into left center field. And back up into that wall. No, it crashes back off the wall. Ausmus is headed.
It's a homer.
It's a homer.
It's gone.
It's a homer. A delayed call. It came back off the facade. You thought it was in play.
Oh my gosh.
Home run Ausmus. 6-6 at Minute Maid Park.
This ball maybe hit an inch above that line, left of the 404 mark. Unbelievable.
Or I will get a picture.
It is literally a game of inches, Chris.
Yes. That's why, you don't want people bending the rules. It is a game of inches.
It is. So the game goes into extra innings after Ausmus ties it up down to the last out. And now after Chad Qualls Brad Lidge, and Dan Wheeler all pitched multiple scoreless innings. Phil Garner had one more big weapon available for them deep into the 16th inning.
Clemens comes out of the bullpen for the second time in his career. The payoff pitch. In there for strike 3, and Franco's hopping mad. He thought he had ball 4. Struck him out. Langer has another rookie getting in. Swings, little fly ball right center field. Counting on Brundle, he'll make the catch. And Roger Clemens pitches his second relief inning. Of course, he's working on just 2 days rest. The question how long he can go. Stung, bobbled over there by Chavez. The Rocket gets there in time though for the out. One away. Here's the 3-2. Swing and a miss. He struck him out. The Rocket blazing away. Andrew Jones getting a running start. Swing and a miss. He struck out Frank Hoare. Another K in the book for Roger Clemens.
Folks, that is a 42-year-old man on 2 days rest, grinding to help the Astros get to the National League Championship Series. Of course, in a tie game, they were just 1 run away from not only ending the game, but ending the whole series. So now in the bottom of the 18th, Chris Burke comes up looking to end it.
Pitch. Swinging. Lining it to left. It's gone! It's gone! It's gone! Chris Burke! Holy Toledo! What a way to finish!
Chris Burke just purchased the ticket to St. Louis.
Look at the modern
Unbelievable.
So the Astros are now going to the National League Championship Series. They are facing those dreaded Cardinals who beat them in the division and beat them in the NLCS last year. Let's look at the big offensive performers from this series. Lance Berkman was the big one. 357, 500, 643 for an 1143 OPS. That was his slash line. Craig Biggio had a big slash line. 316, 364, 526, 890. Willie Tavares, the rookie, 357, 400, 429, 829. Also for pitching, Brad Lidge had 4 shutout innings. So now let's go to St. Louis. Game 1. Not the greatest start. Pettit gives up 5 runs over 6 innings, and Chris Carpenter goes 8 and allows 2. Simply outdueled them. Cardinals would win that game 5-3 and go up 1-0 in the series. But the Astros would fire back in Game 2. Roy Oswalt, big-time performance. 7 innings pitched, 5 hits, 1 run, 3 walks, 6 strikeouts. The Astros got RBIs from Biggio, Chris Burke, and Adam Everett. Lidge recorded the save in a 4-1 Houston win. Tied. Now in Game 3, we're in Houston. Clemens pitches 6 innings of 2-run ball. This game is scoreless until the bottom of the 4th, when Mike Lamb hit a 2-run home run to put Houston on top. The game would later be tied 2-2 in the bottom of the 6th, and then Jason Lane hit an RBI single, and Everett hit into a fielder's choice. And that would be all the Astros needed as Lidge recorded another save. The Astros went up 4-3. So now we're in Game 4. The game was scoreless until the top of the 4th, when Albert Pujols hit a sac fly for St. Louis to make it 1-0. In the bottom of the 4th, Jason Lane came up trying to tie it.
His career turned around since coming to St. Louis under Dave Duncan. In the air, left field. Is this enough? Yes. Muscled into the seats in left field off the bat of Lane, who hit 26 home runs during the regular season.
Muscled is exactly right, Tom. It's another one.
Jason Lane ties up the game for the Astros. The game would remain tied until the bottom of the 7th, when Morgan Ensberg came up.
In the air, right center field. Edmonds in medium depth right center makes a catch. Here's a throw to the plate. Taveras will score, and a sac fly from Ensberg, his first RBI of the series, has given Houston a 1-run lead.
So the Astros are now up 2-1 in the game, and it's up to Brad Lidge to record the save. So in the top of the ninth, did not get off to a good start at all. The Cardinals had men on the corners with no out after singles from Albert Pujols and Hall of Famer Larry Walker. So Reggie Sanders came up with the tying run on the third and no outs, trying to give St. Louis the lead or tie.
Behind 0-2 to Lid. And a tapper down to third. Here comes the runner. Here comes the throw. And he's out at the plate. What a play by Ensberg. And now the runner breaks for third. I'm not sure a time has been called on the field. Ensberg threw his hands in the air as if to call time. And what do they do now?
Wow, that's a great heads-up play by Larry Walker. If he gets the...
So a big-time play there from Morgan Ensberg to keep the runners from scoring and keep the game tied. But the game was not over yet. There was still one out in the inning, and John Mabry was the next batter for St. Louis.
And the pitch. Ground ball right side. They're not going to be able to turn two, or are they? Throw is in time! What an unbelievable turn by Brundtland and Everett. And they cut down Mabry to win the game. And the Astros lead this National League Championship Series 3-1.
Eric Brundtland's an outstanding middle infielder.
A huge play to win the game for Houston. If they don't get that double play, the tying run scores, and we go into extra innings. So an absolutely insane, timely play by the middle infield of Eric Brundtland and Adam Everett. And the Astros are now up 3-1, one game away from the World Series. So now we're in Game 5. The Cardinals were leading 2-1 in the bottom of the seventh. Biggio reached on an error, then Chris Burke singled, and then it was Lance Berkman time.
Caught in center, a single to right center after drawing a walk his first time up. In the air, left field, it might be, it is gone!
Berkman gives the Astros a 4-2 lead. They are on the brink of the World Series. Now, in the bottom of the ninth inning, the Astros are 1 out away from their first all-classic in franchise history. However, there were some runners on, 2 runners on, in fact, and Brad Lidge was on to finish it off, facing Albert Pujols, who was the go-ahead run.
0-1 to Pujols. In the air, left field, and Pujols has given St. Louis the lead. A dramatic, towering 3-run home run. Stunned in disbelief here in Houston. A single by Eckstein, a walk to Edmonds, and how about Albert Pujols?
He got.
So the Astros get their hearts broken in Game 5. The Cardinals win 5-4, and they've got all of the momentum on their side going back to St. Louis, even if they're down 3-2 in the series. So in Game 6, you need a big performance, and you get it from Roy Oswalt. He goes 7 innings pitched, 3 hits, 1 run, 1 walk, and 6 strikeouts. Jason Lane hit another home run, and also Everett, Ensberg, and Biggio had RBIs. And in the ninth, it was Dan Wheeler trying to finish the job.
Now Yadier Molina. Wheeler, the pause in the pitch. Fly ball into right field. And for the first time in Houston Astros franchise history, they will play in the World Series. the 2005 National League champion. We said it the other night, they like everything big in Texas. It doesn't get any bigger than this.
The Houston Astros have come from beyond the grave to the World Series. They had all the momentum sucked out of them in Game 5 from Pujols, and they brought it right back to St. Louis and won Game 6 on the Cardinals' turf.
Yes, I mean, it kind of defines the team. Once you think they're kind of down and out, even though they had the series lead, the Cardinals had so much momentum because Pujols hits that absolute dagger that create a mammoth shot, which you can hear more about in episode 35, first half. Shout out to that Albert Pujols episode. Mm-hmm. But anyway, the St. Louis had the momentum, even though Astros had the lead, because the Cardinals had just won that game, come from behind, and they were heading back to St. Louis. But the Astros, just like they did all of 2005, they come back for sure.
That's right. So Roy Oswalt wins NLCS MVP, going 2-0 with a 1.29 ERA, also an 0.85 FIP. Or I'm sorry, an 0.85 WHIP, not FIP. 12 strikeouts in 14 innings pitched. Lance Berkman, 286, 400, 524, 924 OPS in the series. Chris Burke, a 300, 333, 550, 883 slash line for him. How about Jason Lane? He did have a 238 average, but walked a lot for a 333 OBP, 524 slugging for an 857 OPS. Also, Willie Tavares, Craig Biggio, Adam Everett, and Brad Ausmus all hit at least 300 in the series. Chad Qualls went 4 2/3 innings pitched with a 0 ERA. Also, Brandon Backey had a 1.59 ERA in 5 2/3 innings pitched.
So now they're heading to the World Series, their first World Series ever in their 44-year history, as you saw in the Fox graphic. And in Game 1, it's Roger Clemens on the mound for them, their ace. But unfortunately, Roger Clemens gave up 3 runs over a 2-inning start. And the Astros actually were able to tie it on a 2-run double in the third by Lance Berkman, tying the game despite Roger Clemens' rough performance. However, the White Sox later scored on a home run by hero Joe Creedy and a triple by Scott Podsednik, and the White Sox won 5-3. By the way, if you want to hear more about the 2005 White Sox, we did an episode about them, second half of episode 33. Be sure to check that out. Some cross-referencing here on the show to be named later. I feel like that's going to happen a lot later on. But also, they move on to Game 2. The Houston Astros do in Game 2, and the Astros took a 1-0 lead in the second on a home run by Morgan Ensberg. The White Sox answered with 2 in the bottom of the second, and Berkman tied the game with a sac. Lance Berkman tied the game with a sac fly in the top of the third. And the game would remain tied until Berkman came up again in the 5th inning and produced a 2-run double, giving them the 4-2 lead. And then in the 7th, the Astros were still winning 4-2 until Paul Konerko hit a towering grand slam to make it 6-4. So the energy being sucked right out of the Astros once again. When the Astros had to rally in the 9th inning against closer Bobby Jenks. And they had to rally against Bobby Jenks in the 9th inning. And Jeff Bagwell did what he needed to do to get this rally started in the 9th inning.
Bagwell into center field. Rowan will not get there, and the Astros have a leadoff hit in the 9th.
You can see Pierzynski setting up.
Did you notice that pitch was outside and then like the Fox pitch tracker said it was low and in?
Yeah, I don't.
That was definitely not the spot it was at.
Definitely not. No, that's terrible. But anyway, Jeff Bagwell, he gets that single. He does what he needs to do, and then eventually another man gets on. Jose Vizcaíno comes up with 2 on, but he's also coming up with 2 outs. So it's do or die for Mr. Jose Vizcaíno. We'll see how he handles the situation.
Vizcaíno coming up, or 1 hit away, potentially tying this game, but 2 out in the 9th. Vizcaíno, a base hit to left. 1 run scores. Here comes Burke. Throw home. Safe, and the game is tied. Vizcaíno delivers. 6-6 in the 9th. What a slide by Burke. He got his hand in there to tie it at 6.
On the first pitch against Bobby Jinks, Vizcaíno delivers. The throw by Podsednik toward the first base side, just a hair, and you're right. The slide, the hand on the plate ties it in the 9th inning.
So it's a tie game, some clutch hitting and some bold base running.
Yes.
Leads to them tying the game in the 9th, giving them a shot to maybe tie the series heading back to Houston. But unfortunately for Houston, they got Scott Podsednik, the man of 0 regular season home runs up to the plate. But unfortunately, he had been saving them for moments like this in the bottom of the 9th.
Podsednik hits one to deep right center field. Back at the wall. This ball is gone. Podsednik goes deep. His 2nd home run of the postseason. And the White Sox win it 7-6.
So the Astros cannot get their hopes up there. They lose that game 7-6, and they're down 2-0, but fortunately they're coming back to Houston. And they got off to a hot start in Houston. They went up quickly, going up 4-0 on singles from Lance Berkman, Craig Biggio, Morgan Ensberg, and then a home run from Jason Lane. The White Sox, though, responded with a 5-run 5th inning. And in the 8th, Jason Lane tied the game with a 2-run double, coming back just like the White Sox did, making it 5-5. And the game went deep into extras. I believe it was the longest World Series game up to that point, right?
Yeah, it was. It's since been surpassed, but yeah.
It has since been surpassed. Shout out Ian Kinsler. But deep into extras, Jeff Blum comes up in his only at-bat of the series and hits a home run in the 14th inning that gives the White Sox a 7-5 lead. And the White Sox win that game 7-5, giving them the 3-0 series lead. And in Game 4, the Astros need some good pitching from Brandon Backey, and they get good pitching from Brandon Backey. He goes 7 innings, allows 5 hits, no walks, resulting in 0 runs, along with 7 strikeouts, with a game score of 74. And unfortunately for the Astros, they could not score at all against Freddie Garcia. The score was 0-0 in the 8th inning, and Brad Lidge, unfortunately, allows a 2-out RBI single to Jermaine Dye, and that would do it. The White Sox win 1-0, and they win the World Series. But there were some key performers for the Houston Astros in that series. Lance Berkman slashed 385, 526, 538, 1065 in that World Series. And throughout the entire postseason, he slashed 333, 468, 563, 1030. with 2 home runs, 14 RBI, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I actually wrote innings pitched. Sorry about that.
I'll redo that. So Lance Berkman slashes 385, 526, 538, 1065 in that World Series. So it definitely wasn't Lance Berkman's fault. And throughout the entire postseason, he slashed 333, 468, 563 for a 1030 OPS in that entire postseason, with 2 home runs, 14 RBI in 14 games, along with 12 walks in 14 games.
Mm-hmm.
And rookie Willie Tavares was very good in the World Series. He slashed 333, 412, 600 for a 1012 OPS. And throughout the playoffs, he hit 349 with an 869 OPS. Mike Lamb in the World Series had a 933 OPS in 12 plate appearances. And Chad Qualls had a 169 ERA in 5 1/3 innings.
So this team, they did not win the World Series, but they have a pretty great legacy, specifically with the fact, like I mentioned, they came back from the dead. Like, you know, you can metaphorically say that they came back from the dead, but their newspaper literally put out an article with a tombstone that said RIP Astros season. So that's when, you know, you prove all your doubters wrong. They did exactly what they needed to. They made all the right moves. Their pitching was incredible. I mean, they're starting pitching with Clemens, Oswalt, and Pettit, as well as Backy and Wandy Rodriguez. Just solid all around. Also, Brad in the bullpen. And this season was an emergence for Morgan Ensberg and a continuation of greatness for Craig Biggio. That was my takeaways from this team.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fun team for sure.
They played, obviously the joke is, we included this team because there's another Astros team that we don't speak of. But this one was legitimately fun, especially with the wild comeback in the standings.
Yeah. And, I don't think there were a lot of teams like this because, before 1995, there wasn't the opportunity for a wild card team.
Yeah.
So this is kind of the first team.
Yeah, I mean, if this was 10 years earlier, they literally would have been dead on June 1st.
Yeah, they literally would have been dead. Back to, Sandy Koufax's time, you had to be the best team in your league.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, the Astros, from June 8th on, they were the best team in their league, and that led them to, postseason success. So yeah, a real fun team, no doubt.
Exactly.
So, anything more on the 2005 Astros?
I mean, a lot of hidden good names that were big in the playoffs too. Like obviously Chris Burke is the guy who hit the home run. Jason Lane, of course, had a big postseason. Also 26 home runs in the regular season. Adam Everett had some big moments. Eric Bruntlett helped turn that huge double play. Who are some guys I'm missing? Brad Ausmus with that homer down to the last strike against the Braves. And, of course, Willie Tavares coming out of nowhere as a rookie and doing what he can. Of course, finishing second in the Rookie of the Year voting. A lot of big names that stepped up in the playoffs for sure. And Mike Lamb, too. Mike Lamb is another one that I didn't mention.
Also, you talk about the entire team just transcending. From June 8th on, it wasn't just the offense. It wasn't just the starting pitching. It wasn't just the bullpen. Everyone was really improving, and that's kind of what it takes to have a turnover like that.
Shout out to Phil Gardner for being able to handle that and being able to manage that turnaround. Yeah,
a very good, a very, very good turnaround, and it would have been nice to have more footage of that turnaround. But what are you gonna do?
We got the all-time hit by pitch record. That's all we need.
Yeah, yeah. After that, we're just kind of nitpicking from there. But yeah, that leads to our favorite. Our favorite part of the episode, for us at least. I'm hoping it isn't the audience's favorite part of the episode. The end of the episode.
I think it's fun for them though.
I would think it was fun.
The mystery
for everyone listening there. But yeah, Yeah, so for those unaware, because, mid-March, we kind of knew there wasn't going to be a season at all. So, or not a season at all, but a season for a
long period of time.
A long period of time. So we decided to put 30 players and teams down. I put 30 players down that I'm interested in talking about, and Daniel put 30 teams down he was interested in talking about.
One for each franchise.
One for each franchise. And, we decided, and we put all those players and teams into, we randomly assigned them to numbers through computer randomization, and then we pick a number 1 through, now it's 1 through 20 because we've eliminated, every 5 weeks we eliminate the 5 players that we did, just so that we don't pick the same number every time.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's pretty much where we're at.
Also, this next week is going to be our last history episode for a while because, of course, the Major League season is starting up. We're going to focus solely on the current season at hand, and then when the off season starts, we're going to continue. So this next week of history, it's going to be the last one for a while, but it is not going anywhere. We are going to finish this list. And also, we're going to be halfway through after next week.
Yes, we will be halfway through, and then we will remodify our list. Go from 1 through 15.
Exactly.
It's going to be interesting when whenever we come back to it. It's going to be
yeah.
We might be a little rusty. I don't know.
We're going to have to look back at these old prep sheets.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm picking first this week.
You're picking first this week?
I am.
All right, go ahead. What player is going to be our last player before the 2020 season?
It's going to be player number 10.
Ooh, I'm glad you chose this one. Player number 10. Player number 10 is definitely an under the radar guy, and sometimes
that's my favorite.
And sometimes I like to look at stats of guys and look at some how about that's for some guys before we even choose them, just out of curiosity. And I believe this guy has the highest position player WAR for a guy who never led the league in position player WAR.
Wow.
And this is probably because he played with guys like, Willie Mays, Frank Robinson, and even on his own team, he had Hank Aaron to worry about. And this man is Eddie Matthews.
It is Eddie Matthews. Okay. Wow.
Yeah. It's a good one.
That is an under the radar one. I like it.
Yes. I'm looking for and also he was a guy that he was like the one of the original like great third basemen.
Yeah.
There weren't a lot of great third basemen before Eddie Matthews.
He was one of them.
Yeah.
So it's your turn.
Happy you picked that one. All right. Yeah. So now the last team we are going to be talking about before the beginning of the 2020 season is going to be team number have I picked 3 yet?
You have not picked 3.
We're going to be talking about team number 3 next week.
So this week with the 2005 Astros, we talked about a team that we also talked about a team that they played in the playoffs. And we're going to be doing the same thing next week. This team was also kind of dead to rights. Not to the degree that the Astros were, but they had a big mid-season acquisition that bolstered them, and that is the 2015 New York Mets.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Remember that time Yoenis Cespedes like almost won NL MVP when he only played 2 months in the NL?
Yeah, he had a time there, and he was.
Yeah, he did.
That was his third.
Had a great half season. They also had Jacob deGrom. They had Noah Syndergaard in his rookie season. They had Daniel Murphy. They had Bartolo Colon, of course. We get to talk about him. I mean, who doesn't love to do that?
Oh my God, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It was Cespedes' 4th team in like 13 months.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was unreal.
Yep. So that is going to be our next week. Eddie Matthews and the 2015 Mets.
Yeah, that's gonna be a fun one. Actually, I have my Red Sox Cespedes jersey right here.
Oh, there we go. There we go. Yeah, I mean, people were literally like making calls for him to win NL MVP. Yeah, there it is. He played on the Red Sox for 2 months in a completely lost season.
Yeah, I got this off Modell's clearance, I believe.
Okay.
$5.
Also, I have some personal experience. I went to a game right before the trade deadline, like just before they got Cespedes, where they got shut out, complete game shut out by Kershaw, and that was like the big low point for them. So.
Oh, sick! That's great.
Yeah. Yep.
And you got to see a Kershaw shutout. It's pretty
and
cool.
And Bartolo pitched that game too. It was like
the dream. Well, that's the big part.
Yeah.
I haven't seen.
He lost his helmet on a swing.
What was that?
He lost his helmet on a swing once. That game.
Sick. That's awesome.
All right, so that's it. We would like to thank Baseball Reference, Fangraphs, and MLB on YouTube for their contributions to the show. Like always, these shows don't happen without them.
Don't happen without them. Yeah, shout out to all those things, and that leads to the conclusion of episode 44. Hope you enjoyed both Sandy Koufax and the 2005 Astros. If you are listening on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and want to watch the YouTube videos with us, come on over to our YouTube channel and subscribe to that. Like our videos. The YouTube channel is called STBNL with Chris Gianta and Daniel Curran. If you want to follow me on social media, follow at Chris_Gianta on Twitter, and follow Daniel on Twitter and Instagram at Daniel_Curran. And if you want to follow the podcast on Instagram, go to our Instagram at STBNL Podcast. Got some good stuff over there.
Yeah.
And that is the end of the episode. Hope you enjoyed our Sandy Koufax 2005 Astros episode, and we look forward to seeing you on Wednesday when we are talking Eddie Matthews, and on Friday when we are talking about the 2015 New York Mets. See ya then.